All right, welcome everyone to today's episode of Is It Prophecy on Israel National Radio. We're back from the break, and we're back with Rabbi David Katz of Somazal.com. Now, Rabbi, before the break, you were talking about the destruction of the temple being due to the rabbis and the fact that the hand of God is therefore not on his throne, so to speak. And Eliyahu, what job does he play to fix this problem, if you will?
Right. So let me just make one thing clear, just for the listener, so we don't get busted.
Sure.
We are not saying rabbis are bad, right? This is not like a crusade on a group of people, right? What it's saying is rabbis are human, and every race and gender and blah 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 is human. Even purple people are human, right?
That's right.
So the idea is, again, rabbis have a Yetzer Hara just like everybody else, evil inclination. They're human, and some people get trapped into wickedness. Some people don't, right? The rabbi spying on the chicks in the mikveh, right? That is wicked. That is not good. Under any terms, that is not good, right? The rabbi who is, who basically sanctifies, the godly aspects of women and brings out Ashes Chayil in the world, right? There's your holy rabbi. So, in any industry, there are those that are good, there are those that are bad, there are those that are effective, there are those that are not. We are saying, people have an idea all rabbis are good because they learn Torah. That is not true. Not only because sometimes it just is not possible, but we're saying there are certain qualities of the soul, like this Shindal, Yehudi Talmud Chacham. There are evil people that are gravitating towards Torah, right? Torah is a very powerful, lustful property. It's an elixir of death if you absorb it the wrong way. So it can be used for perversion. God says choose life. Hopefully its adherents choose life. Just want to make that clear.
Okay, sure. And then in regards to Eliyahu, what's he supposed to do to try to fix the situation? Because we know Eliyahu is going to come right before Mashiach, so how does he fix this problem?
Yeah, we saw some incredible things. What told us Yaakov Yosef that Elijah's function, we all say, he comes before the Messiah and he announces the Messiah is coming. We see it as a mythological kind of creature, right? We're just going to be going about our business, and one day, and the Mount of Olives, Elijah's going to come with a trumpet and say, "Everybody, the Messiah has come." Right? But that's kind of a Christian idea, if not entirely. Just kind of like the heavens open up. Now, we do know Elijah ascended to heaven, so there's basis for it. But we're awaiting for some kind of Yashki return, and that is a foreign thought that we should really remove from our DNA. Right? The Messianic tradition we have, I know Jews sitting in Kollel and think that the Messiah is going to come and save them. And he is called a Moshiach, a savior, right, in Hebrew. Even as incredible as that may sound as Judaism versus Christianity. But they think he's going to come and say, boys, girls, way to go. You guys have achieved nothing in exile, some of you, and you're fantastic because of it. No. Everyone's got to grow and change and evolve, right? There's no savior freedom that just by sleeping in Kollel at my Stender, I get free credit to be in the Messianic age. So what he says is a rule of Eliyahu, of Elijah, that I can relate with. There's a concept of like the sins of the fathers visited on the laps of the sons. Basically, the whole idea of perpetuation of shortcomings from fathers, forefathers, to future generations. And what he says is Elijah's job is to basically bring the scholar to the layman in the healthy way, right? So there's a rift, right? I am the rabbi, you pamper me, and I look dirty at you and tell you how low you are, and we have this kind of back and forth, and we never really get anywhere. Even if it's in jest, it's not Beseder. So the revelation of Elijah is healing all schism. The rabbi and the people, the rabbis, the message is effective amongst the people that they unite. So Elijah really, as a true student of Aaron, as Pinchas Eliyahu, Pinchas is Elijah. Pinchas goes back to Aaron. Pinchas is the covenant of peace, right? Aaron was he who loves peace and brings the creation to Torah and peace. And we can see how Elijah's message is peace. And it might be you get pierced with a spear. That's who Elijah Pinchas is. Whatever it is, Pinchas will heal all schism as is seen by the tribe of Levi.
All right. Again, this is a Prophecy on Israel National Radio, Route 7. The show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. Let's talk about this concept. I heard a long time ago that when you look at the Ten Commandments, it says, honor thy father, honor thy mother. If you look at Hebrew, there's an extra word that says et. And then I was told the et refers to older siblings, step-parents, and rabbis. Is it rabbis or is it Talmid Chacham?
I'm going to throw you a total curveball here.
Okay.
In my work of the Ten Commandments, I researched it. The Ten Commandments were removed from our tradition on a daily basis because the rabbis did not want the people to think the Ten Commandments were more special than the rest of the Torah. And it's the Gerim, the nations, the non-convert Ger, who particularly love the Ten Commandments because guess what it says in the fourth commandment? By Shabbos, you're this, the that, and the ger in your gate. So the ger and the Shabbos is rooted in the Ten Commandments. The gerim are rooted in that, saying, hey, Rabbi, is this me? So how do we avoid that? Let's get rid of the whole thing and basically just pretend it never happened, and they'll see you in Parshas Yisro. So when you read the Talmud on what is honor thy father and honor thy parents, and the whole discussion, the rabbis go to the house of a ger, and they request, I think it's the stones for the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol. If I'm mistaken, it's something along those lines, like the Paraduma. I forget which one it is, okay? But whatever it is, whatever the case was, it was like the most precious commodity that we could ever get, which I think it was the stones for the breastplate. And he says, look, Rabbi, I'd love to give this to you, but it's under my father's pillow, and I can't wake up my dad, right? Honor thy father. The rabbis are like, no, wake him up. And he's like, look, Rabbi, I love you and your temple, and Moses is a great guy. I'm not waking up my father. Mm-hmm. So the message learned is, what is the correct definition of honor thy parents? And this is brought down in the Aramaic translation in the Ten Commandments by the word honor. It's the word yakar, which means precious, right? I'm not bothering my father because he's precious to me. That which is precious, you don't mess with, right? Why do you honor your parents when they're older? Because when they're that old, man, they're going to tell you those precious things about you, your family, where you come from, right? And you have to honor it because you have a parent. It's a fact. You can't say you don't. So I think when it comes down to the fear of the rabbi, fear God, honor your parents, and we say it includes the rabbi, here's a very simple way. Does my rabbi enter this equation or not is the question, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
So there's a simple answer. If your rabbi is truly precious, honor and fear him. If you can do without the rabbi, he does not enter that category. And you cannot convince someone of precious, right? You know, if you have an acquaintance, okay, Bob's a nice guy. What can I do? But is Bob precious? Right, that's already pushing it. Right? You know what precious is. You know that if your mother gave birth to you, you might not talk to your mom, like your mom, and that's an issue you need to solve. But to say I'm exempt of honoring my mother, now that's just plain ridiculous in logic. You cannot say that your life is not precious. Right? Even if you're suicidal, you're ending something precious and you know it, that's why you struggle with it. So to say my mother is irrelevant, that's an illogical statement. You might not like precious things, right? Some people don't like Shabbos, but the fact that they toil over it shows how precious it is, right? So when it comes to the rabbi says, hey, Ari, you gotta do tshuva. You're like, oh man, come on. But all right, you might tell me off, but it's because you know it's precious. And that's what really goes into a rabbi.
All right, let's talk about if the rabbis are Rishonim or Tzaddikim and how that relates to Shabbos.
It's interesting. So there's a kind of this. You can see the theme that's developed in this whole discussion, right? There is a rabbi, there's people, there's good people, there's bad people, there's real life, there's precious. I think we're describing life, aren't we, actually?
Yeah, sounds like it, yeah.
This might be the answer to your proverbial, what is the meaning of life? But so, if I'm a rabbi, I have to really make a decision. Where should my light be used? Am I supposed to turn my back on the society and stay in the base matter studying? Should I make Bolei Tshuva? Should I study only with good people? Like, who should I be associated with? So the rabbis that ultimately, I think all rabbis have to deal with people, and because the rabbi is like a priest in a certain way in the temple, and when the rabbi deals with the people, this is what rabbis have issues with, right? Because the people are not scholars. So how do we find that happy medium where I'm not condescending to you, you're not intimidated by me, you're not threatening me, and I'm not threatening you, and really threatening you, you know? You're going to go to Gehenna if you don't keep Shabbos. And you're saying if you don't clean up your suit, you're going to go to Gehenna because you're Masriach, right? So the point is, where do you find friendship and camaraderie? And it comes out on Shabbos, right? Everyone likes a good Shabbaton. So the rabbi is in his own sublime universe is like the day of Shabbos. You know, kindness, he's meditating, he's with God. But Friday night, you know, we want to hear the rabbi. We want to hear the Devar Torah. We want to hear the Zmiris. You know, rabbi, come show us what it's about. So when he comes out Friday night, Kiddush wine, girls, little dressed not so sneeze, you know, maybe the Rebbitzins out of town. The girls are like, wow, Rabbi, you know the whole Torah. You know, so there's a seduction going on. The question is now, Rabbi, how are you going to hold yourself? Are you still the day rabbi who is with God and, you know, wearing all white? Or are you a nighttime rabbi, you know, darkness, a little shadier, right? So are you being brought down by the people or are you lifting the people up? Are you the kosher rabbi? Or are you the one that gets a little bit, you know?
Very interesting. Again, this is a Prophecy on Israel National Radio, Root Sheva, and the show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Louis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can email me, messiahhour@gmail.com. Let's talk about the concept of Yetzer Hora, Rabbi, of the dumb Yetzer Hora and the smart Yetzer Hora. What exactly does that mean?
So the Toldos Yaakov Yosef says there's two kinds of people and two kinds of Yetzer, right? There's your layman and your scholar. So the layman, he deals with real layman issues. You know, layman Bob is married and he's sore from a long day of work. Layman Bob, on his way home, walks by a French parlor, you know, masseuse. He says, wow, that woman is super attractive. Would I love to go into her parlor? And he says, but, Marge is going to yell at you, Bob. Oh, come on, she wouldn't care. Besides, look at this woman. Good man, wow. So the Yetzer talks to him on his language, right? Bob, you need to feel good. You're sore. It'll be good, you know. Forget Marge. You know, she burns dinner all the time. You need to have fun. You need to let loose. What's in it for me? You know, I deserve things too. So it speaks your level. It says, you know, Bob, it's a sin. Okay, so what? So that's him. The rabbi now, you're not going to get the rabbi in that. You know, you've never in a million years you're going to get the Haredi rabbi walking in a parlor, right? With his hat and his senses. Not happening. So the Yetzer for him is different. It's going to use more trickery. So, you know, someone says, Rabbi Katz, I heard you on Ari Louis, and it sounded like you guys were fighting or something, you know? I say, oh, Ari thinks he knows everything, and before we prepare, he's trying to tell me how the Torah goes, and I'm like, I'm the rabbi. Come on. so you know, I'll speak Rechilus on Ari and Lashon Hara, and I'm justified, right? I'm the rabbi. He should know his place. I know what I'm doing. He should know his, you know. So it takes the liberty to really manipulate and bully and control people, right, in a way that you can't really touch me. You know, and so in the end, it just, you know, okay, I'll get a new rabbi. And that's what happens. Okay, fine. I don't need you. I'll leave anyways. So it uses scholarly tactics to shed blood and to make fun, you know, but not in like a more general way of just kind of like blah, but more of like, you know, you're not on my level type of thing. And I think that's even worse, but they're both bad. But it's two Yetzer Haras for two kinds of people. We're all humans and we all basically have to deal with overcoming those issues.
Again, we're continuing the conversation with Rabbi David Katz of SoMazal.com. Let's talk about if we don't have good rabbis? Or can we do anything in terms of Judaism?
So the idea is that the rabbi he has to keep learning, right? Just like a mechanic has to always go. How in America, like the mechanics and every profession goes to like a stage. What's that called? When you go to like every year you go for like a week training. You're off work and you go to like for example, I was in daycare when I was in college, right? And instead of sending us to Wright State University to go sit and be bored and hear lectures about how to take care of kids, one guy, he was an awesome guy. He would rent out Joker's Comedy Cafe, and like every daycare worker in town would go to the show, and we got to go out and have a night of entertainment, and we got credit for listening to him teach us how to take care of kids. And it was hilarious because he was, it was like a fun night out, but it was serious, but we got to have fun, right? So you have to always stay on top of your craft. You must keep your tools sharp. I think the essence of being a woman's intellect is keeping yourself sharp. In every way, consider everything a tool, and they must all be sharp. So the rabbi has to stay sharp in dressing, in learning, in midas, in his job, in everything. He is that guy. He is your Kohen figure who's like an angel. That's his job. So if he's not learning, he says, I've learned it all. I went to yeshiva for a couple of years. I'm making Balei Tshuva. Ari, I practically know the whole Torah. Like, okay, I believe you. So, but once he does that, the Balei Tshuva is like on fire. He's like a fiery Balei Tshuva. Rabbi, what does it mean that in the waters of Mara, Israel accepted the 7 laws of Noah? He's like, what? They don't know how to answer it. And that's the thing. The Balei Tshuva is dying for these answers. The rabbi says, what are you bothering me with that for? Let's go learn some Talmud. So now that the Balei Tshuva, his growth is stunted because I've stunted my growth. You're not going anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere. And so now no one's going anywhere. That Balei Tshuva now is a sterile moron, in light of his friends want answers and he can't give them to him. So now he's like a program running at a lesser speed, and this is why we're stuck. But if people would continue learning, always learning from your fellow man, no matter how scholarly you are, the Balei Tshuva will get his answers. He'll be able to educate his friends. The message goes out, and we will do proper repentance and return to God. Now, again, this is not, I'm speaking a bit harsh, but the bottom line is don't stop learning. You have no permission to say, I've already learned it, I'm done. There's always new things coming up.
All right. And, again, this is a prophecy at Israel National Radio, Root Sheva. And the last few minutes we have with you, Rabbi, let's talk about the concept of how to know how to choose a rabbi, because, as you said, not all rabbis are bad. And also that these things we're going through where these rabbis that are in scandals, you mentioned the situation in America with the rabbi with the camera and the mikvah, are these signs that Mashiach is close, that we have such a despair situation?
I think this stuff is just the way the world works. I don't even know if I'm going to answer your question right now, because there's so many things I want to say.
Okay.
And as you saw, there's so many things we can say, right? And let me just say at this point, if this answers it, great. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. But let me just say this. Energizer will always say Duracell sucks.
Right.
Okay? The fact is there are Balei Tshuva rabbis out there. And by definition, as we're learning, Balei Tshuvas and rabbis make mistakes. Agreed?
Sure.
Now, I'm going to do tshuva whether you like it or not. And we all are. And we're going to find our rabbi. And I'm going to find the rabbi that maybe I just, he's in my town. I like his website. I'm probably not going to choose with total sacrifice of self, right? I just want to come back. I want to hear Torah. Okay? I'm a simple guy. Leave me alone. And my rabbi is going to say that there's no such thing as a Noahide. I'm just making this up, right? And I'm going to say, hey, Ari, guess what? Rabbi Bob says there's no Noahide. You're going to say, that's ridiculous. Rabbi Jim says that's all there is. And I say, no, Ari, you're wrong. You're horrible. Your rabbi is a treif. He's an evil Russia. So the bottom line is my rabbi and your rabbi have to fight on a certain level, okay? Because Energizer has to disagree with Duracell. I'm going to offer certain things to my students. Your rabbi is going to offer certain things to his students, and they're just not going to cover everything. Now, those two rabbis really have a deeper mission. They should really, when the students are, killing each other, the rabbis should really hear from their students. They should talk, and they should get together and say, let me hear your point of view. Maybe I'm teaching something incorrect. That's what they should do. But the real issue is that, everyone's dealing with the front line affairs. They're going to have things that they don't know. The bottom line is get together and try to find how views can work together. And in the grand scheme of things, what Toldus Yaakov Yosef is saying, there are bad rabbis and there are good rabbis. You're probably going to fall into the hands of a bad rabbi, or at least relatively speaking, right? It's going to be damaging in some way because he's not perfect, right? It's like a bad marriage. Your job is to grow in the marriage and eventually become a self-sufficient, holy person. Find the rabbi that suits your soul the best. And ultimately, again, in a very general way, there are bad rabbis and there are good ones. Right? There are good cars and bad cars. Right? Again, but it's all relative. Ari, you're into radio stuff, so you'd probably be appalled at my equipment. Right? You'd say, you're an evil guy. How can you have this when you're a guest on my show? Sorry. It's just not my priority. But you probably have books on your bookshelf that I would go, oh my God, how can you have it? Right? So we all do this, In sports, I probably think things that you think are ridiculous. Right? So, that's how it is. So, if you're into sports, don't come to David Katz. I'm probably not the best influence on you. And go to Ari Louis. So that doesn't make me or Ari evil or great, right? It just means know yourself, know where you are, know where you're going. Don't stop growing. Right now you might not like Hasidus. So go learn from a Litvak. But if it comes about that you find that you're not in a peaceful setting because of this thing, you might want to open up to Hasidus. It really is a time and space and place enterprise. The bottom line is for where you are, when you are, how you are, learn to recognize what is a healthy influence upon myself versus what is a righteous influence upon myself.
And, last thing I'll mention, there are the bad rabbis out there, and, the ones that I mentioned, Phoenix, the best thing, do teshuva. Try to improve yourself and just get better. Don't say you don't have to improve yourself. My guest this afternoon has been Rabbi David Katz of SoMazal.com. Rabbi, thank you again for being on today. We really appreciate it as always.
Thanks for having me back. It was always a pleasure.
And again, you can email me, messiahhour@gmail.com. This is It Prophecy on IsraelNationalRadio.com.